This is a sort of a change of pace. The last session, you've been very involved. You've been sort of responding, coming with your energy. We're now going to take half an hour where you can sit back and relax and just allow some sort of words of wisdom to absorb via queer osmosis into your soul, into your heart. And we're going to be talking about navigating the media. I think we're all very much aware that the world we live in is very much controlled by media, news, other people, Twitter. And the discourse around LGBTQI plus issues have evolved. They have come on a long way, but it's still very much an issue. It's not so much a conversation. It's very much we're being talked about, not talked to. And obviously, when that comes down to intersections in marginalized communities, we've yet to see how that impact is really going to affect us all, certainly looking at the intersections with the trans community, with sort of looking at people of color and Black people. There's this hate rhetoric that exists in this lack of understanding and unwillingness to yield to the idea that difference is okay. And so as queer leaders, we are often asked to speak for our community, to get on that soapbox, to have something to say, to progress this conversation, to come up with these answers to an insurmountable task that no one person could ever tackle on their own. And so it's really interesting to understand from people that are in the media that do engage in these conversations, both from a personal standpoint and within business roles, is how we navigate these conversations, these opportunities, this responsibility, and still have a meaningful impact, and also not losing ourselves in the process. I am so excited to be joined by powerhouses of the queer community who I would love to introduce themselves to you. So I'll pass you over to Chris.
Hey, thank you. Introduce myself should be the easiest thing, and I just went blank then. So I'm Chris. I am chairman of Brand Advance Group and CEO of Brand Advance North America. I'm based here in New York. It's very early at the moment. And I also sit on a few boards. I sit on ITV's board, I sit on the V&A Museums, and I sit on the Met Police board. But yeah, run a diversity media agency group.
And you see it.
Thank you. Really nice to be here. Thanks, Ben. Thanks, Chris. Yasser, he, him. Been working in the space for D&I for 18 years. It feels like a long time. Journalist, predominantly within media, so The Guardian, Channel 4, BBC, and currently at Financial Times. Great to be here.
I mean, listing off all these organizations, all these positions, we are in a room of greatness right now. So really allow the opinions, knowledge, and exceptional talent to just sit and absorb. And I think, you know, there's a real dichotomy at the minute with the stuff that happens in the news, the stuff that happens around us and outside of us, and knowing how and when to contribute to that conversation in the media. I'd love to hear from both of you, starting with yourself, Yasir. How do you know when is the best time to respond to these requests? How do you know whether to be reactive or proactive? And how do you build a conversation versus just responding to something in the news?
It's a really great question. It's a very big question. I think if we kind of just sort of, for me, it's about looking at the wider context of how news has evolved over the years. It started off very much in print journalism with authority figures reporting on certain issues, and then starting to go and speak to I call the show me the leader, show me your leader that represents your community, and they would give an opinion on some event that happens. It was always pretty much a reactive type of responding to often negative stories, because I think with news media, what we've realized is they love reporting on the fringe, whether it's good or bad, and often the nuanced voices in the middle, which talks to ensuring that people are not misrepresented, or they're not scapegoated, or they're not vilified, or they're not misunderstood. That middle core is so important. So those voices, I think, are really, really important. We often had a lot of extreme voices on either the left or right. That obviously with the digital revolution, with then obviously adding in social media, sort of the TikToks and the Instas of the world, and Facebook's and Meta and all the rest of it, it's completely changed from fact-based journalism to opinion journalism. So we all have voices, and there's a lot of voices out there, and often the most loudest voices get heard. And the most loudest voices are the voices that then are there to represent. Personally, and I put a huge caveat on the personally, I don't like it when if I were to come as a queer person of color, to say as a queer person of color, because I'm representing my views, and obviously my ethnicity, my religion, my sexuality, my X, Y, and Z will inform how I think, but I do not represent the whole LGBTQI spectrum. And I think that's really important that we say that. Now, often we'll get parachuted into positions to talk on behalf, particularly issue-based stuff. So I think there comes a huge sense of responsibility. And for me, I think as long as you have done your research, you're a respected figure in your area, you have spoken to a number of people within your own community to get kind of a diversity of views to present that. I think that's really key. Unfortunately, we're living in a time where everything's reactive. So certain events happen in the world. Obviously, in the UK, you have new pieces of legislation or not around conversion therapy, banning and not banning, and then you're asked to give opinions and comments on that. I think that is where it becomes really tricky, because we're always having to respond. You have this pressure and expectation, never going to keep everyone happy, and you will, for example, give an opinion which many within our community would be happy with and others won't. So I think it's just really being careful and sensitive of how you frame things, to say this is just a personal view based on X, Y, and Z. Proactive, I always think, is the best. Like, we have amazing events that happen throughout the year. You have Pride, you have certain key landmark events. So, you know, we've got the 50 years of Pride. I think then having a real stock take of what does this mean? What is the journey? What are the stories? What are the different evolution of the issues? Because one thing I think that the challenge our community does face is everyone seems to think that it's all mainstream, it's all about celebration. I call cupcakes and rainbows, but you know, underneath there's a lot of real serious hard issues that are still not being dealt with. So not falling into the trap of you know, the stereotypical and cliched coverage and perspectives and views. There's quite a lot of gritty stuff there. So sorry, I think I've given a bit of too much of a landscape, but for me, I think there's so many different factors that play into it.
No, I think it's a really important thing to know that it's not just a yes and answer. There's so much to consider. I'd love to hear your take on that, Chris, where you think you sit within that conversation.
Yeah. I have two sides to it. And because of, you know, the industry I'm in media and advertising, and I can see Chloe on here as well, so she'll be able to sort of testify to this, is there's two sides. One is, I am not here to educate everybody. We can all do our bit. We're not here to relive our traumas so that others may understand, you know, and you have to keep reminding my industry, the media, you know, I'm very privileged in the fact that I get a lot of media, you know, requests, you know, and stuff like that, but I have to remind myself and others, and you know, and remind them, you know, because I'm in a position of privilege as a CEO, as a chairman, to remind them as well. To, you know, there are other people in other positions that may feel they have to, where it is not our job. You know, we can choose whether we want to speak about ourselves, about our traumas, about our community, about our thoughts and fears and interests and loves, you know. So I think that's really important. Then on the flip side of that as well is, especially recently in recent years, this is now our superpower time. Our difference is our superpower. More people than ever are listening. What that also does mean is that you are afforded the privilege of speaking, but also you're sticking your head above the parapet. And when you stick your head above the parapet, people may take pop shots, you know. But yeah, I often say to my team, and I often say, like, I speak a lot in universities and stuff like that, and sort of say, you know, take this time, because I mean this with all love, but this is our privilege now, because the world is is a little more concerned. It is having conversations that it never had before, whether it's about race and Black Lives Matter, whether it's about, you know, the LGBTQ plus community and the different issues within there. Some people maybe shouldn't have so much of a voice on Twitter, but at least people are speaking and having the conversation and having them awkward moments. So, and I do think, you know, never did the privileged straight white person say, oh, I think I've just been asked to speak here because of my privilege, you know, whatever it might be. And I think we sometimes need to not question ourselves so much of why we've been asked to be there. If you feel comfortable, if you want to use your voice, then take that opportunity. That is now your privilege. And it took a while for us to get here, but we are, and you know, take them opportunities. Let people know who you are, because for too long there's everybody here, and I can't speak on behalf of everybody, but you know, I can speak on, like Lucia said, I can speak on behalf of my truths. And you know, for too long I've been in the shadows. I'm a Gobby Northerner, and even I have felt in the shadows sometimes, you know, but now not. Now you're going to ask me what I think about something, I'm going to tell you. You know, if you're going to ask me on a panel with beautiful people like yourselves, then I'm going to come here and speak. So yeah, I think there's two sides to it. Don't feel we're not here to educate, but also take that moment, should you so wish. You know, use your voice. Let the world know who you are, because they deserve to know, because everyone's beautiful and should be seen and heard.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said of knowing that you don't have to do this all the time. You don't have to every day wake up and go, how much of myself am I going to give out today? But knowing when there's a right moment to do that. And I think it's interesting, between the last panel I hosted and coming here, I had a request from Reuters to talk about Mental Health Awareness Week and the lack of representation and validity for non-binary people. And it was very much, we'd like this to look at your trauma and your childhood. And it was like, okay, this is a big jump for me. Do I want to give this much? But I thought, you know what? I do think there has been a missing link here this week. I do think I lost 15 years of my life to a lack of representation. I've already openly talked about my struggles. I can word this in a way that gives just enough of that to get the point across. I think more needs to be done to protect the mental health of non-binary people. And I've given that to Reuters. And it was that moment of, I can harness this conversation for other people, not myself, just by leveraging a little bit of my own trauma that's already in existence, that already has happened, that I've already talked about. And it's finding the right ways to do that. And I think it sort of takes on to the second half of this conversation. It's about the protection of self, the protection of our integrity, our personality, our worth, when it comes up against the anti-LGBTQ plus rhetoric that we will no doubt receive when we do put our head above that parapet. As you said, you know, those pop shots will come to us. You know, it's often masked as having an opinion. Everyone has an opinion, everyone has a voice. How do we sort of look after ourselves, you know, as a contributor to that conversation, but also a person that exists within that minority group that also needs to be lifted up, looked after and helped? I'd come to you first, Chris.
I'm not the best person to answer it, because I've struggled with it myself. You know, not so much, well, sometimes the attacks from outside within, but more the attacks from inside. You know, I've spent the last 3 years building a career that's basically based on me telling the whole world every trauma I've ever gone through, basically, you know. And you know, me doing that now employs 150 odd people in 5 countries and has allowed me to come and live here, you know. But that's the truth. I've had to tell everything: the kids, the army, the coming out gay, you know, the being the first Black person born in the Isle of Man, all of these things that have just built up to, and I have to do it to get them to listen, and then I tell them what I'm there to tell them, which is the service or the company or you know, what we're really about or what we're trying to change. But and I've struggled. You know, I've recently stepped down as CEO in Europe, come out here where there's a smaller team and I can sort of get some more time for myself, seeing a counsellor and a few other people. Actually, I seem to have a team now of people that are sorting Chris out. But because I you know, I'd love to hear both of your views and opinions on it, because it's the thing I didn't do right, looking after myself. You know, I seen the goal, and you know, thankfully, and I'm blessed that we're a lot closer to the goal that I seen, you know, to build this great company that can stand. But it just tore me apart, and you know, there's bits of me that I didn't even know I could be. You know, very moody, very short in meetings, very you know, get in, say what I'm doing, and get back out, kind of thing. And I didn't realize that I was even being that, because I was over here 5 times a day, TV, radio, panel, traveling the world speaking. So yeah. I'm still figuring it out myself, I think, is my answer.
That's a good answer. I'd love to hear from you, Zia. What does that look like for you? How does that feel for you?
Just going to say, it was so lovely to hear what Chris was saying, and also beautiful as well, and that you're often checking or questioning yourself of, do you have to, and why am I in this position? And there's this kind of old saying I heard about the best leaders are the reluctant leaders, and I sort of feel like that you're sometimes in a position, it comes at great cost, because you're there detailing your experiences and your trauma, but you're ultimately doing it to help others. And that comes with, it's almost like a double-edged sword. It's a blessing and a curse in the sense that you're helping others, and that hopefully gives you the energy and the hope and the support that you need. But also, you know, it's painful as well. And I mean, I'm a little bit similar. I came across the wonderful people of Michael and Maylis when we create space. We had an initial chat, and I just thought to myself, I feel like I'm ready. Someone who's always been a little bit more stealth as a Muslim and a gay, having loads of experiences of internalized homophobia, conversion therapy, a lot of racism within the mainstream LGBT world, a lot of not fitting in either spaces. And I just kind of came to the conclusion that you're here for a reason, you're being asked for a reason, take it. And as long as you have the right people around you to provide the right support, I mean, when I was in my head of diversity and inclusion role at The Guardian, someone threatened to out me because I wasn't out at the time. And I was so terrified, and just felt under this pressure to sort of come out in the ways someone else wanted me to come out. And I actually really resented that. So I think everyone has their own stories. We're not here to overshare. We're here to find ways to connect and find commonality, and we have to do it in the most sensitive way. So hats off, Chris. It's great. It's great to be in those positions to do that, and hopefully inspires others to do the same. I think it's a baton that we hand on to others. I feel like I'm trying to do a little bit now, and hopefully there'll be others on this call or elsewhere willing to now take and take a lead as well, because sometimes we have to do self-care. It's really important, really, really important.
Yeah, I think it's really important that what you both said has really resonated with me, and I thank you so much for sharing so openly, both of you, the fact that this job is so hard. It's not easy. And, I'm a very private person. I share a lot of my life online through my work, but it's a very small amount of who I am. And Michael and Maylis will attest to this. I have turned up to run sessions here in tears because I am not okay. In the last 12 months, I've had 3 breakdowns, severe breakdowns, trigger warning, with real struggles to actually carry on wanting to be on this earth, because there is no easy way to take checks for trauma. There is no easy way to parcel up 15 years of abuse and go, now I want to change the world. There are days when that is impossible. And I think more than ever, I have realized, just like Chris, it's the people around me that I have to hold on to, because they are keeping me here. Like, if I could give my therapist all the money in the world, I would, because she's saved my life weekly for the last year. And so there is this space of yes, it is our responsibility, and very much so. I really do appreciate that this is the time that we have, but you don't have to do it every day. And if you wake up one day and you cannot say what you think you should, it's a sign that you can't today. And the fact that we're in this room with over 50 amazing people, there will be someone else that can step up that day and be the voice that you can't bring. And I think that is really our responsibility. And I've done that myself, is what's the plan for me in the next 10 years? Because I don't think I can do this every day for the next decade. Where am I going to go with my voice and my energy? What do I do? And that's why I've poured myself into my first book, because I want to give the kids right now that opportunity to have that voice right now, so that I don't always have to do it. And so, yeah, there is this, where does that energy go when we can't do it kind of conversation that I think we all have. That was pretty much our, were you going to say something, Chris? Sorry, I heard.
No, I was just gonna agree, and also say, just pick up on something that Jamie has put in the comments. I don't know if anyone read it, about the psychology of trauma in relation, to using it in our careers, and it's ours to be used should we so wish. Bloody hell, we went through it the hell of it. Also, apologies for my mic. I hope this one's better. I've just swapped them now. Yeah, good. All right. Sorry. But I think, so let me give a bit of context really quickly. I'm flying back to the UK on Sunday because I'm opening Adweek, and then I'm the keynote speaker at YouTube's global conference. And I sort of, since coming out here, I've just said I came here to make myself better. So I got this guy, YouTube got him for me actually. And he basically, you sort of sit with him and you say, this is what I normally go on stage. I normally go on and say, I was born on that little tiny dot between England and Ireland, and then and then I show my kids I've got a mixed race son and a white daughter, and then and I talk about coming out and all of that, and the army and being blown up, and then I get through to, and now I've got a business. Let me tell you about the business. And this person, so I sort of did the whole presentation and stuff, and then he sort of, a little bit of what you're saying, Jamie, he was like, why did you tell me all that? And I was like, I don't know, because you might not listen to the last bit if I don't tell you the first bit. And he's like, take this bit out, take this bit out, and take this bit out, go again. And he literally, got me to take out most of the traumatic things that I don't even know why I keep saying them every day to every journalist that asks me to say it, or every event, because, it really did. It made people like my story, but actually, what did they do? The call to action of what we want them to do? I don't think it actually did. And so I'm saying that just because anybody on here, and I know quite a few faces here, and a lot of it we've met on the circuit of talking and stuff. I would definitely, and the 500 quid in yourself to get, and I can definitely give you this guy's name, but to get a person that can sit down and do that with you, because we know that giving a bit of ourselves takes you somewhere and gets people to listen and all of that, but maybe you don't need to give quite as much. Maybe the things you think are the most tintillating, the most traumatic for us, but tintillating for the audience, actually isn't the thing that's going to make them do what you want them to do, whatever your call to action may be. So yeah, I just wanted to finish with that, that's a little bit of self-development that I've got, and it's actually blew my mind. And ask me next week how well it went, because I'll be in your country soon delivering it. But it was just nice for somebody to say, do you know what, I'm going to do what you've asked me to do, and you didn't need to tell me all that. Maybe give me the kids, and that's the understanding, but you don't need to tell me about the explosion, you know what I mean, and stuff like that. So yeah, happily share that after this. I might stick his name in the chat. I'm sure he won't mind. Thank you.
It's a really great example of giving just what you need and not too much. Was there anything else you wanted to add, Yazir, before we round out this session?
Oh, I think Chris said it all. I would say also sometimes it's okay to, there's a difference of being alone and being lonely, and it's okay to be alone to find your own space, find your own path, find your own tribe, find your own people. And that often is a good thing as well. So when you to get to the place you need to be, you need to spend some time by yourself. So anyone who's going through similar sort of experiences, it's a necessary process to get to a better place. So sometimes you just got to ride with it a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. The journey of life, we're always on the right path. You might not be able to see it, but it's always there. Thank you so much to both of you, Chris, Yusir, for sharing that last half hour with me. I've taken a lot. I'm full of emotional energy, and I just thank you so much for all that you do. I'm going to hand back over to Melis. I think we are coming up to a break. So there we go. Thank you.